Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. So in Drg Drashya Viveka, we are now doing Tatpada until verse 13, or rather 12. The text dealt with Tvampada, and now the text is taking up discussion upon Tatpada. So up until verse number 12, Tvampada was discussed, and now Tatpada is taken up. See, as an individual, we have to deal with the world, and unless and until we understand what it is, what is the reality of the world which we are facing, we will not be able to interact properly with it. Similarly, as far as individual himself was concerned, there also the reality of the individual. What is the reality? That he is drashta and not the drishya, that is body, mind, intellect. That was something which was needed to know. Similarly, as far as the world is concerned, we have to know its reality also. World is not something which you can evade. In some or the other way, you will have to face it. And when you face it, if you know its reality, then we can interact properly with it. Then our relationship with it will be altogether different. So this is the reason why even Tatpada is taken up, because it is one only which is divided into two, I and you. There I means individual, and you, I means jiva, and you means the rest of the world. So from that standpoint also, we have to know its reality. We have to understand what it is. Only and only when we are thoroughly familiar with the reality, we will not be able to interact properly. In some or the other way, world will always continue to bother us, and that is why it is very necessary to settle account with Tatpada also. And so the author took up that from verse number 13. Let us just quickly read verse number 13 and 14 and see what we have seen already, and then proceed with verse number 15. So verse number 13 I am reading. Shaktidvayam hi mayayaha vikshepavritirupakam vikshepa shaktir lingadi brahmandantam jagat srujet. So here the text said, Shakti dvayam hi mayayaha vikshepa avruti rupakam. Whenever creation is to be explained, since Brahman alone is not sufficient to create the creation, inasmuch as Brahman is without qualifications, plus it has no desire, it is all full, etc. That is why creation is not possible at all. And so whenever creation is to be explained, one factor is added, and that is called Maya. Brahman cannot undergo any change. Because if it undergoes a change to become something, to become the creation, then there is transformation in Brahman. And wherever there is transformation, it will perish one day. Reality cannot be like that. So, to explain the creation, text introduces us to this phenomena called Maya. What is this Maya? Maya is, as it were, power of Brahman. It is called Shakti. We will see what kind of power it is, but for the moment, suffice, let us confine ourselves to this understanding that it is power of Brahman. What kind of power? It is power which is twofold. Twofold in the sense that Maya is twofold, namely one power is called Avarana and the other part of the power is called Vikshepa. So, as we have seen, Avarana is that which conceals and Vikshepa is that power of Maya which creates. So, Maya is possessed of these twofold powers. Shakti Dvayam hi Mayayaha. This twofold power, which are they? Avarana, Avrutti and Vikshepa. As I said, Avarana means it conceals what is, not totally. It does not totally conceal, but it conceals the particular aspect. Just as an object is lying there called rope, that object called rope is not totally concealed, but when it is semi-dark, then we do not perceive rope clearly as rope and we mistake it to be snake. This not perceiving it clearly is because of the power of Maya, which is called Avrutti. We did not perceive it clearly, and that is why we mistook it to be something that it is not. What is that? We took it to be rope. So, that is called Vikshepa. When we do not see a thing for what it is, it does not stop there. It creates something else. So, Avarana is called veiling or non-apprehension and Vikshepa is called creating or misapprehension. So, what does this two do? Avarana Shakti, Avrutti Shakti has concealed the reality. What is the reality here? Reality is consciousness. I do not know myself as consciousness. So, Maya has worked. It has concealed my reality, that I am full, I am consciousness, I am existence, I am happiness, that it has concealed. But the Aham is not totally concealed. And so what happens? It makes us take ourselves to be the body. So, that is the creating aspect, the creation aspect. And what does this Vikshepa Shakti do? So, the author said, Vikshepa Shakti lingadi brahmandantam jagat srujet. This Vikshepa power of Maya, it creates beginning from lingadi, that is subtle body, to the entire creation. So, in this verse number 13, author is explaining to us this Vikshepa Shakti, the power of Maya which creates. What does it create? It creates the subtle body here, beginning from subtle body to the entire Brahmanda, is created by this power called Vikshepa Shakti of Maya. It could do this first by concealing the true nature and then in its place making us take ourselves to be the body, mind, intellect. So, this is what Maya Shakti has done. And we should know what kind of creation is this. There is no real creation. Understand this very well. Had there been real creation, then Brahman or consciousness would have undergone transformation, real transformation. And if it had undergone real transformation to become the body, etc., to become the creation, then it will perish one day. Then change will come. And if once there is change, then in one stage there will be change, then in another phase there will be change, third phase there will be change, and a time will come when the original thing will no more be available. It will totally perish. So, reality cannot be like that. So, consciousness cannot undergo real change to become the subtle body or to become the creation. Then what is the nature of this creation? It is nothing but appearance. In spite of, see, there is the term for this kind of creation. Which kind of creation? Where consciousness or Atma doesn't undergo any change whatsoever and still appears as creation. What is that creation called in Vedanta terminology? It is called Vivarta Vada. Vivarta means where the thing remains what it is and still appears to be different from what it is. Standard example is that of rope and snake. Rope remains rope and still it appears as snake. One example. In Vedanta, they give many examples. In Mandukya Karika, which is written by Gaudapadacharyaji and is very famous and is something to be read by all who study Vedanta, there it is said that, just listen to the verse, Swapna Maye Yatha Drishte Gandharva Nagaram Yatha Tatha Vishwamidam Drishtam Vedanteshu Vichakshanaihi. It is said, Swapna Maye Yatha Drishte. Just as dream is seen, just as Gandharva Nagaram Yatha, just as a whole city appears in the sky, where in reality there is nothing but clouds. But the arrangement of the clouds is such, that it appears as a city. Tatha Vishwamidam Drishtam. Similarly, the creation also appears, where in reality is nothing but consciousness. This is the conclusion about the creation by wise people. There is another verse which also says, because this kind of creation, this phenomenon called creation and how it appears is very, very important. So, it has been discussed in different places. I will read out for you another verse. Anishchitaya yatha rajjuhu andakare vikalpita sarpadharadibir bhavaihi tadvat atma vikalpitah. Just as the object called rope, when not determined for what it is, when not known for what it is in semi-darkness, then it is imagined to be what it is not. It is imagined variously. Some people will take it to be snake. Sarpa dharadibhir bhavaihi. Some may take it to be a snake. Some may take it to be a garland. Some may look upon it as a streak of water. In different ways, this thing, the object called rope, is imagined variously by various people. Similarly, Tadvat Atma Vikalpitah. In the same manner, consciousness or the self, when not known as it is imagined to be differently. But that doesn't mean that consciousness undergoes a change. No, never for a second. It remains what it is. This is the biggest solace. Had it undergone a change, then there would be real samsara, real change. But the redeeming aspect is only this, that it doesn't undergo any change and yet appears. Yet it does appear. This is what Vedanta says. This has been told to us in verse number 13. Then, in verse number 15, the same thing is elaborated. There it said that Shrishtir Nama Brahma Rupe Sachidananda Vastuni Abdau Fenadivat Sarva Nama Rupa Prasarana. It says Shrishtir Nama Brahma Rupe. What is this thing called Shrishti? It is nothing but, what is it? It is an appearance or superimposition upon the Vastu. Vastu means reality. Vastu means substratum. What is the reality here? The reality is Brahma. In other words, it is Satchidananda, the reality which is nothing but existence, consciousness, happiness. Upon this, the creation is superimposed. It is nothing but superimposed. Here an example is also given to illustrate this or enable us to understand it. It is similar to what it is said in the second line. Abdo Fenadivat. Just as upon ocean or upon water, we see what? Foam, ripple, waves. All this, when you look into the foam, when you look closely into a ripple or into a wave, what do you find there? You find that it is nothing but water. It is nothing but H2O. But still, the same water appears as foam. It appears as waves. It appears as ripples. So many things. So, wave is also a name and form. Ripple is also a name and form. Form is also a name and form. What are all this? All these are nothing but different names and forms which have expanded themselves on the reality called water. The reality is ocean, and upon that so many things are superimposed. So many names and forms have expanded themselves. What has expanded? Water itself has expanded into different names and forms called waves, called ripple, called foam, called bubble, etc., etc. But the thing is just one. What is that? It is nothing but water. Similarly, what is this creation? Nothing but expansion of names and forms upon the reality called Brahman. And that too, there is no real expanding of Brahman. Brahman remains what it is. Reality remains what it is. There is not even an iota of change in Vastu. In Vastu means in substratum, in the reality. It just remains what it is. Last time also we talked about this example of dream. Just as in dream, the dreamer is on his bed and is dreaming. When he dreams, he creates the dream world. Vishwam Darpana Drashya Nagari. Nagari, just as the whole city is, when you are sitting, when you are walking and you come across a parlor and there is a big mirror over there, then you see that the reflection of the car, scooter, etc., pedestrians, etc., into the mirror of that pan shop, You see the city in that mirror. Is it really there? It is actually out and you see it inside. In dream what happens? The entire dream world is in the mind of the dreamer. It is in the mind of the dreamer. Or we can even say the dream world is nothing but the expansion of the mind of the dreamer. But when he is watching that dream, undergoing that experience of dream, it appears as if it is outside. In reality, it is inside. Nija antaragatam. It is actually in his mind and yet it appears as if it is outside. In similar fashion, in similar manner, the world too is nama rupa prasarana, is nothing but expansion of names and we call it expansion. In reality, there is not even expansion. It is just superimposition. It is just imposed. It is just imagined. But the difference here is that we do not know that it is imagination. Had we known that, things would have been different. But we take it to be real. So, this is what we have already done. This is what the Maya does. So, in verse number 13, the author said that Maya does these two things with its twofold power. Now, the same idea is expanded in verse number 13. The author is going into the details of this, how Maya works and makes us take this thing as real. What it does really is, it separates one into two. One consciousness is as it were fragmented into two. Which are these two? I and the rest of the creation. I and the rest of the creation. See, once we look into this, we will find there is nothing but Brahma through and through. Nothing but delusion through and through. There is nothing but just one consciousness, one reality. And it is looked upon in this way. And that too, first, it makes the division of I and you. I means Jiva, individual self, and you means the rest of the creation. How did it make this kind of distinction? So that part is elaborated in this verse number 15. Let us see that. And let me make it very clear that in verse number 13 and 14, one aspect of Maya, which Vikshepa part, Vikshepa Shakti was dealt with. There is still another one, which is that Avarana. So that part is dealt with in verse number 15. Vikshepa Shakti is already explained in 13th and 14th verse. Vikshepa means that which creates, and Avarana means that which conceals. So actually, concealing comes first, and then comes creation, then comes Vikshepa. But here author has chosen to explain Vikshepa first. The function of Vikshepa is explained first, and then he goes on to explain the Avarana part. There is a reason behind that, as we saw last time. It is because we see the creation. That is why he is explaining that first. But that thing has occurred because the reality is concealed first. So that part is taken up now. Which part? The Avarana Shakti. Let me read the verse. Drg Drashya bhedam bahishcha brahma sargayoh avrunotya parashaktihi sa samsarasya karanam. He says, see, Avarana Shakti does these two things. It does these two things. What are these two things? It says, Antar Drg Drashya yoho bhedam. Antar and Bahihi. So how does this two division come about? These two divisions of inside and outside. Avarana Shakti conceals something inside, and at the same time it conceals something outside. What is it concealing? How does this words inside and outside come about? It came about with reference to the body. I take this body as I, and therefore whatever is within the boundary of the body is looked upon as inside, and whatever is exterior to the boundary of the body is looked upon as outside. Keeping this in mind, author says, Antaha and Bahihi. This Avarana Shakti of Maya, this concealing power of Maya conceals something inside, Antaha, and it also conceals something outside. Now let us see what it conceals inside and what it conceals outside. So the first line says, Antaha Drg Drashya yoho bhedam avranoti. Inside, the Avarana Shakti conceals Drg Drashya yoho bhedam. It conceals the separation or the distinction that obtains between Drg and Drashya. Drg means Drashta and Drashya means that which is seen. So, there is a distinction between the seer and the seen. This is concealed by Avarana Shakti. This we have already seen in the earlier verses. But again, author brings it again. See, we have already seen this, that which I call this body as I is actually you. This body, the mind, the intellect, the sense organs of perception as well as sense organs of action, what are they actually? All of them are objects of my knowledge. All of them falls in the category of you. All of them falls in the category of object. And the one who witnesses them is the subject. This we have already seen. So, even though here there are two, who are they? One is subject and one is object. Understand this very well. Be careful. In this which I call I, there are two. How many? And which are they? Subject and object. I and you. I is consciousness, which is not seen, but because of which all of them are seen. It is this consciousness which perceives the body, which perceives the mind. It is consciousness, and all of them are nothing but inert. Inert cannot let us say assert their presence. They are Paraprajnananda. We know an object only and only when it is lighted up. When somebody lights this up, then only it can be seen. Because on its own, it doesn't enlighten itself. So this is called Paraprajnananda. It needs a consciousness for it to make itself known, because it is Jadam. So as I said, there are two here, but I take it to be one. When I say I am a woman, then what? what do? I combine two things. I and woman are combined. I belongs to consciousness and woman part belongs to the body. I am a teacher. This teacher part belongs to the intellect. I am Brahmin. This Brahmin part belongs to the body. So here I and the rest of the things which belongs to the body, mind, intellect, etc. are combined, are lumped together. And why do we lump them together? Because we do not know that they are separate. I has never become body. Consciousness has never become the body. Consciousness doesn't have vital air. It doesn't have sense organs. Nothing. But still with I attach the attributes of the body, attributes of the mind, attributes of the intellect. They are attached in the sense that I think they are inherent to me. Humanness, womanness, manness, etc., etc., as if it is inherent to me. When we do this, we forget that they are separate. We are ignorant, as a matter of fact, that these two are different. This was made very clear in the beginning. Asmad and Yushmad. I is I. Rest of the things are you. Just as I call this pen different from me, I am the seer of the pen and pen is the object of my seeing, object of my knowledge. Exactly in the same fashion, body is object of my knowledge, therefore not I. Mind is the object of my knowledge, therefore not I. Decisions in the intellect are object of my knowledge, therefore not I. Body, not I. Mind, not I. Intellect, not I. Vital air, not I. And yet, I call them I. Who makes me say that? Who makes me do that? Who makes me entertain this delusion, this notion? When I say, I am jealous, what is this? Along with I have attached this jealousy which is in the mind into the I. I have superimposed this attribute of the mind or a thought which is going on in the mind upon I. So, in short, it is this concealing power of Maya called Avruti makes me forget the distinction between I and you. Maya has done its work. And then it makes you take this body as I. And then you carry on with your samsara. Not one life, but another, like that. This is going on from beginningless time. And it will continue to go on unless and until we probe into this thing which we call I. Unless and until we come to know the distinction between these two, this will continue. Because at the moment, this distinction is covered. Even though there are two, I call it one. What a big error. This is what Maya has done. So the author says in the first line, Antar Drg Drashya Yoho Bhedam. Inside means here, in this which I call I, whatever is inside the body, that is looked upon as I. Bheda is there, separation is there, but I have forgotten. Not forgotten, but ignorant about that. And what does it do outside? Bahishcha Brahma Sargayoho Bhedam. Bahishcha means what? Bahishcha in the sense that whatever is outside the body I call as you, and the rest of the entire creation, whatever is beyond the boundary of this body is looked upon as you. is looked upon as object, is looked upon as creation. Sarga means creation. But now, let us inquire into what this creation is. What is this thing called creation? We have already seen that it is nothing but an appearance. It is rope appearing as snake. What we call snake is really rope. What we call silver is nothing but shell. What we call mirage water is really sand. Understood? Similarly, what we call creation is nothing but in reality Brahman, in reality consciousness. Just as we saw in the earlier verse, it is the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya which makes us create. It is the Vikshepa Shakti which makes this creation, which has created everything beginning from subtle body to Brahmanda. This we just saw. So, it is nothing but superimposition, nothing but appearance. There is no real, no substantial thing called creation. Just as there is no substantial thing called water in that mirage water. Mirage water means appearance of water. That water cannot quench your thirst. Similarly, these objects of the world which you see before you, you go to them, you approach them, seeking happiness from them, seeking love from them, seeking care from them, thinking that they will satisfy you, but they are an appearance, like that mirage water. Will they satisfy you? No. Why? Because it is nothing but an appearance. Yehi samsparshaja bhogaha dukkha yonaya evate. Whatever you see in the world outside and you think that this will give me something, in reality it is nothing but doomed to fail. Dukkha yonaya evate. It is nothing but womb for suffering. Why? Because you are looking for that happiness into something which is not there. Something which doesn't have the capacity to give you that. Because it is appearance. Because it is unreal. So, what in reality is an appearance, you take it to be real. So, and what is there in reality? In reality, what is there is nothing but Brahman. Just as what you call snake is nothing but rope, similarly what you call creation is nothing but what? Nothing but Brahman. Just as what you call wave is nothing but ocean, nothing but water, similarly what you call creation is nothing but Brahman. But again, the concealing power called avarana has concealed that from us. And so, we fail to see this. We fail to see that what we are seeing is in reality nothing but Brahman. But we take it to be names and forms. What we call pot in reality is nothing but clay. Similarly, but we think that pot is real. The reality over there is nothing but clay. It is clay which appears as pot. Similarly, it is Brahman which appears as Sarga. But Maya has concealed that part. That is what Avarana does. It has concealed the distinction between Brahman and creation. Inasmuch as what is Brahman is looked upon as creation. Who did this? Again, this is done by the Avrunoti Aparashaktihi, This Apara Shakti means Maya. Maya's one aspect. Which aspect? Avarana Shakti. That, it is feminine word. So she has done this. And this has become the cause for samsara. Sa samsarasya karanam. And this is the reason for samsara. Samsara doesn't mean that there is a creation and that this body appears to be there. No. Samsara is taking myself to be the body, taking this world to be real. If we knew its reality, then there wouldn't have been any problem. It is myself appearing like this. It is one reality appearing here as individual body and there as different names and forms. Had we known this, there wouldn't have been problem. But this part is concealed by Avarana. This Avarana Shakti of Maya has been successful in concealing this, and that is the cause of suffering. See, again, here the Bheda is created. Antaha Drg Drashya yoho Bhedam. In spite of being consciousness, which is my reality, I look upon myself as individual. I look upon myself as doer, experiencer. I am a father, I am a mother, I am a wife, husband, daughter, daughter-in-law. So many roles we play. But who is the actor behind all of them? The actor is consciousness, which is in reality not a doer. Doerness, experiencerness is not inherent to him. Is not inherent. Just that beggar is not inherent to actor. Actor, yes, he does play the role of the beggar, but that is not inherent. He, in reality, A is not B. In reality, actor is not beggar, it is just a role. Similarly here, that I am a father, that I have to play the role of a mother is one thing, but taking myself to be mother is another thing. When I play the role, then it is fine. But when I take myself to be mother, then what happens? All the tension, all the stress and everything that goes into being a mother, what does it? It creates a big burden upon me. I have so many responsibilities to fulfill. These children are not listening. I have to make them settle down in life. Daughter is to be married off. Son is to be settled. And there are so many problems in their lives. All those problems become my problem. The problem of the role no more remains to the role. It goes inside the actor when you forget the distinction. Which distinction is forgotten? That I am consciousness, I am a witness, I am asangaha. These things do not really belong to me. It all belongs to the role. In reality, I am not the individual person. I am not the one I take myself to be. When this is forgotten, then all the suffering. And this becomes very real. Then we pass from one suffering to other suffering, one problem to another problem. And life is no dearth of it. Things just keep on coming. And there are so many roles which we play at a time. At the same time I am mother, at the same time I am a wife, I am daughter-in-law, in the office I am an employee, an officer, etc., etc. And all the problems, all the roles have something or the other which I have to worry about. But if I know that is not my reality. If this distinction is very clear between consciousness and the body, if this distance is very clear, in a way, tell me, what is the distance between the actor and the beggar? In a way there is no distance, but yet, in a way, even though the beggar is nothing but the actor, and yet actor is not the beggar. Understood? Even though actor is playing the role of the beggar, but if he knows that he is the actor, he is not the beggar. The vicissitudes of the beggar doesn't apply to the actor. Similarly, if I knew that I am consciousness, I am Atma, I am all pervasive, I am Asangaha, I am full, and not this body. Even though body is here, body is nothing but a costume. It is nothing but a costume, similar to a costume. And I am the wearer of that costume, not the costume. If this distinction is very clear, there is no problem. This distinction was not clear to Arjuna, and that is why when the time came for him to do his duty in the battlefield, he thought, I will be killing, and I will be killing my own people, my respected teacher, my respected grandsire. That time, what is concealed? Maya, and the concealing power of Maya has concealed successfully what? It has concealed that you are not Arjuna. This part is concealed. That you are Atma, Ajaha, unborn, Nitya, that part is very well concealed. And he took upon himself as Arjuna. He took upon himself as a teacher of Dronacharya, a student of Dronacharya. In reality, he is not. That is why Lord Krishna had to teach him this distinction. Lord Krishna is doing nothing but in the first 6 chapters is unfolding the real nature of the consciousness and showing him this distinction between I and you. Antar Drg Drashya yoho bhedam, which exists and which Arjuna is ignorant of, is made clear that you are not this body. Arjuna is the name of the body. You are not that. And this body is today in this form, tomorrow in another form. It is just a tool. It is just an instrument in your hands. In short, it is not you. What Bhagavad Gita and Lord Krishna is doing in Bhagavad Gita in the form of teaching to Arjuna is the same thing, revealing the distinction between I and you. And that is why in 13th chapter, Lord Krishna said, Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidiyate. O Arjuna, O Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, this body is nothing but kshetra, field of experience, object of your knowledge. And the one who knows that is kshetrajna. One who knows the kshetra is kshetrajna. This distinction is made very clear. But if you do not know this, then Maya has concealed it. It does conceal. We have to remove that veil. Maya, we are born with that veil. We are born like that. We are born ignorant. But we have to remove that veil with the help of the teacher. Similarly, Bahishcha Brahma Sargayoho Bhedam Avrunoti. Maya even conceals the Bheda between Brahma and creation. In reality, what is creation? In reality, what is Brahman is looked upon as creation. And therefore, you expect from creation. You expect the creation to fulfill you. It doesn't. Why? Because it is an appearance. Because it is jadam. It is not self-sufficient. And you forget that it is not a bhogya vishaya. Looking at the creation, you want to make it a bhogya vishaya. You want to experience it. You want to enjoy it. Two Brahmas are there. You look upon yourself as bhokta, an enjoyer who wants to experience and enjoy the creation. In reality, you are not the bhokta and the creation is not bhogya. Follow? You are not bhokta, experiencer. Similarly, creation is also not an object of your bhoga. It is not. That is why in Ishavasya Upanishad, the very first mantra says, Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagata. Whatever is there in this creation, may you cover it with Ishvara. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. It is not that we have to cover it. In reality, it is nothing but Ishvara. But we look upon it as a bhogya vishaya. And we desire things from it. We want to exploit it. In reality, it is Ishvara. So, both the Bhedas, here also and outside also. Antaha means inside the body also the veiling is there. Maya has concealed the reality. Outside also Maya has concealed the reality. And after doing that, she has fulfilled her job. And we are nothing but we pass this life in this ignorance. Just as you know, as children we used to play the game where the child would be blindfolded, and then he would be made to spin. He would go round and round, and then he is given a thing, and there would be a bunch of chocolate tied to a tree, and he is now said, you go and hit this bat over there. Once he is blindfolded and he is made to go round and round, how is he ever going to find? Similarly, in life also we are groping in dark. Groping in dark means what? We do not know where the reality is. I am looking for it outside, whereas I am that reality. I take myself to be this limited, inadequate, incomplete person, which in reality it is not. And I look upon the creation as something which will fulfill me. In reality it won't, because I am the reality. What I see in the names and forms are an appearance. But Maya does this very successfully. Thus, in short, in these two verses, author has explained us these two power of Maya. One is Vikshepa and another one is Avarana. Avarana conceals, and having concealed, not completely, but it makes us take the thing to be differently. So, Samanya aspect, the general aspect is not covered, but the particular aspect is covered. We have seen this last time. The object is there. You see something, but you do not see it clearly. You see something, which means the general aspect is seen, but you do not see the particular aspect. In short, you do not see rope clearly as rope, and therefore you take, so the Samanya aspect is seen, that means something is seen but not clearly. That is why you take it to be different from what it is. So these are the twofold powers of Maya, Shakti Dvayam, which are they? Avarana and Vikshepa. That is shown, and also he elaborate that here also Maya conceals and outside also it does conceal. Having done this, Now again, in verse number 16, author will elaborate upon the subtle body. That will be taken up again in the verse number 16, which we will do next time. Thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanta Shanta Shantihi. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.